purpose of a whiteboarding challenge? Here are some of them. So, a company could be looking for how you deal with ambiguity. It could be looking for how you collaborate. It could be looking at how you make use of resources. So, in a meeting room with a whiteboard, there's not many things you can use. So, they might want to see how you're using all of them while you're there. It might be about how you break down a problem and what is your approach to figuring out a solution or figuring out how you would take the next steps. It might also be about empathizing. So they want to know whether you have done your research and figure out where the company is in its trajectory. Could also be about peeking in. They want to know about you. They want to know how you are in person. So the last two ones here are, I think, the more important reasons why one would want to do a whiteboarding interview. So let's look at the stages of the whiteboarding interview. So one is obviously all the things that you can do before the challenge day. There are the things that you could do while you're on that day where you can try to understand the whiteboarding challenge. And then the third part is actually carrying out the whiteboarding challenge. So the first part, the pre-whiteboarding challenge day. So this is all about research. So there's essentially two types of research that you can do at this stage. The things that you can find out for yourself through the company's website or company's presence online. And the second thing might be about if you've gone through a recruiter, there are things that you can research via the recruiter. So the things that you could be looking for yourself through the company's website might be the job description, and maybe it's worth checking out if there is a mention of the whiteboarding challenge being part of the interview process. So it might say that the step one is an intro call, the step two might be a portfolio review, and maybe the step three is to come into the office and do a whiteboarding challenge. So if there is visibility of knowing those stages, it might be helpful to prepare accordingly. So there might be a chance where people ask you, do you have any questions for me? Which is when you might ask things like, what is the whiteboarding challenge, or what is it that you're looking for in that stage? And if you can give me details about what sort of domain the whiteboarding challenge might be about. Is it inside of the domain that the company is in, or is it outside it? The second part to that is the questions that you could be asking to the recruiter if you've gone through a recruiter. And this is a very important step. I think a lot of people overlook this aspect. A recruiter is a nice little buffer between you and the employer, and a lot of the times you can use them to your advantage. So some of the things might be that there might have been other candidates in the process before you who might have been less successful. So maybe it's a good time to figure out what might have been those things that didn't allow them to progress. So if you can get a sense of what those might be, you could definitely use it in your favor. There could be other things around how many people tend to join the whiteboarding challenge, just so that you get a sense of what the meeting room could look like and help you prepare accordingly. There could be questions around are there any specific soft skills that they're looking for that can help you also prepare during that day? Okay, moving on. So this is about understanding the whiteboarding challenge. So there's a wonderful video by Harvard Business Review on how to really use the whiteboard, in which Christina asks Jake Knapp of Design Sprint fame about how whiteboards make you smart. And he's got a very lovely answer to that, and I will post the link to the show notes. I just want to add that it can also make you nicer. So a lot of times in a whiteboarding challenge, you will be given a problem statement, and you have to try and find a way to align with others about the problem statement. So what you could do is you could use the whiteboard to write down the problem statement and put it up somewhere so that everyone can see what that problem statement is. Outsource the alignment goal on the whiteboard rather than having to do it on yourself. The other thing you want to do is articulate the brief and ask if you've understood the problem before proceeding. Remember to use a timer. Keep an eye on the time. Super important. You don't want to run over or not give enough time for others to ask you questions and all of that. Depending on the domain of the problem, so make necessary disclosures. So it could be that they might give you a whiteboarding challenge in the same domain as the business, and you might not have as much understanding of it as the business might. So maybe you want to say that up front so that it's understood by everyone that you don't have that level of expertise others might do in the room. match expectations of the process, and if it helps, outline them. So again, people know what to expect and what could be happening next in the process. And always encourage others to ask questions as you go, and vice versa. Something to make sure that collaboration is on the top of the agenda. So don't just do it on your own, and don't alienate people. Make sure that everyone is involved constantly throughout the process. To the next bit. So this is all about carrying out the whiteboarding challenge itself. So there's a couple of things that can be done in this stage. This is the most important stage after all. Assigning roles and responsibilities is one of the very, very important things that you can do. So this is just to make sure that everyone in the room has a role and everyone contributes, and they know how they can contribute and in what capacity. So, for example, you could assign the roles of a decision maker, you could give someone the role of a design decision maker, and you can also give someone the role of a subject matter expert. So, you could come to these people for those particular opportunities to make sure that the conversation progresses. The second bit is about outlining what the whiteboarding challenge consists of. So, you could think of like dividing the whiteboard into the left hand column where you put down a list of things that you want to keep front and center. So it could be, for example, the problem statement, some of the constraints, and what the needs and the goals are from a user and business perspective. Okay, the second point onwards is all about keeping the conversation going and putting things down on the whiteboard so that you are progressing to the next stage and moving forward and doing the things to go from an abstract problem to something that can actually be seen as an output that potentially also has an outcome. So the things around that could be about putting down the problem statement, putting down the constraints, and putting down the needs and the goals, and that of both the business and the users. Use the left hand side of the whiteboard where you can put it all in one place so that everyone in the room can see it, and it always is there to make sure that people use as a way to continue the conversation. The next thing might be about using frameworks. So this is, if it helps, you could use something like SMART goals or the STAR technique or a SWOT analysis. If you're not sure of any of those, I will post links to some of these where you can find out a bit more about all of them. Some of the others could be about effort, impact, matrix, or a known unknown metrics. It's a good idea to keep it a bit low touch. So we're not trying to come up with something that can be used immediately. It's just something that allows you to take things forward and move the conversation along. So if you've used the known unknown sort of matrix, there's essentially 4 different quadrants in it, but don't try to do too much with it. Maybe you want to keep it a bit simple where you just have the known and unknowns at this stage. And then breaking down problems into tasks. So this is a good way for others to see how you approach a problem statement and what is your ability to breaking it down into smaller chunks. Um, the next thing is about creating a user flow or a task flow diagram. Again, once you've broken down the problem into smaller chunks, what is the ability for you to connecting them into a piece that can be used by the business or in a direction to move the problem forward. So the next one there is about solutionizing, and this can be a bit controversial. So again, a lot of the times people would say, do not try to solutionize in a whiteboarding exercise. The important thing to realize, in my view, is that you have to see what the trajectory of the company is. So if the company is in a place where they want things to move really fast and they want people to come up with ideas and they want to see the ability for you to ideate on the spot, this might be a place where you could want to move into the solutionizing phase. Yet on the other side, if a company is a bit more mature and they have research functions and they have people to do the different bits in the process, maybe you don't want to go to the solutionizing phase. And the last bit, always try to close. So a lot of the times a whiteboarding challenge ends quite abruptly and you're not entirely sure as to what the outcome is of that exercise. So it's always a good idea to make sure that all the steps outlined have been presented and all the steps have been moved along sequentially so that people know that each step had a reason and a purpose. And you close by defining what the next steps could be. Keeping in line with the closing theme, That's it. This is all there is to it. Best of luck. Stay calm and breathe. And I hope you like the video. If you have any thoughts, comments, questions, opinions, feedback, or wonderments, please do put them down here in the comments. Thank you very much.